Well, we are settled in. Hope we've had a good new year. There we go. There's nobody here. Let's have a quick slope. You'll know when somebody turns up because I'll put my glasses on. I never quite know how these things work. You know what I mean? I know some of you are tuning in later on because you don't appear while I'm talking. When I look at the numbers later, there's more of you. Also, at the moment, I can see you quite well because I haven't got my bins on. The moment somebody starts talking to me down there, I'm going to have to go, what? What? And there we go. Hi, Neil. How are you doing, mate? Did you have a good new year? Keeping well? You better be. I've got to say how grateful I am, mate, for all you do with the contributions and things. You've been such a real boost for me. And the advice you gave and the ideas you've got, honestly, man, I'd be struggling without your help some days. So fantastic. I'm not going to say it well. There's gazillions of people around. Hiya, Rick. Hiya. You had a good new year, man. We're like the Three Musketeers. I don't know which one I want to be. I'll be the fat one. Is there a fat one? I was just saying to Neil, I'll say the same to you, Eric. Thanks for all you do for me during this YouTube shambles. I really, honestly, I might not always say it, but you two guys are the mainstays. You and Roland as well, if he appears. But Roland's always giving me bits of advice and comments. It's been excellent, really good. I found since I've started to do since I've started to stick more old Dungeons and Dragons things on the channel, I've had a burst of enthusiasm, and we've had a couple of nice comments from, these people get 100,000 subscribers. A couple of them say nice things. That's good. Don't seem to transpose into anything exciting, but at least people are there, aren't they? We got a new game. It's called The Plot Thickens. I've got it somewhere, and you have all. Yep, you get dealt 3 characters. The one I've got science fiction, but there's a fantasy one. So you get dealt at random 3 characters, and then you choose who you want to be, and then you get 5 other cards. You get 2 places, 2 items, and another person. And then when the game starts proper, you tell a story. So and every time you say the word that's on your card, you put it down and you get a point. And then if somebody uses your word and by continuing the story, and it all ends up as one story, they get a point, and you add all the points up. And the stories can range from the sublime to the ridiculous. Yeah, don't worry about that, man. We've all got bits to do. I keep dipping in and out of everybody's bits, Eric. I've seen quite a few of your spotlighty campaign things you did. What I tend to do, I don't know if this is a naughty thing. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that in case it's bad. It's not bad, but you never know, dear, with these things. I'm just looking for this game. Hang on. Everything's in such mess. Yeah, this is it, Rick. Plot thickens. So you get... I'm going to imagine you've got to choose. This is your character. You are a crazed cultist. So you start your story and you tell the crazed cultist story and you put it down, and then you might have to play a thing, and you've got a cloaking device. So put that down. But then as you go around, if one of your mates or family use the cloaking device or talk to the crazed cultist, they can get tokens by putting them on the little card. And the other you get, what's this? Places, center of the universe. And at the end, you decide 4 turns they call a short story, and then 6 turns is a novel. And then after that, you count up the number of tokens you've put on other people's cards and how many tokens people have put on your cards. And whoever's put the most tokens on other people's cards becomes the author, and they get to finish the story without any cards. And the person who's got the most tokens on their cards becomes the publisher, and they give the story a title. I was a clone, and I was trying to find a way of finding the person I'd been cloned with. And I went to find my son-in-law had a monk, and I thought, I'll find him because he looked the most promising of all the things that were on the board. But when I got there, it turned out he was called Disappointed Derek, and he'd given away everything except his underpants. He'd even given away the clapper in his bell. So we were stood in his underpants with a clapperless bell, winkle in it. I've just thrown things away. I don't know where I'm at now. No, I'll find it after. Yeah, I'm moving. I'm clearly I'm moving, but physically, and hello. My dog's just appeared. Come and say hello to everyone. Come and say hello to the boys and girls. Come on. There, look, that's Rolo. Say hello. Hello, Rolo. Yeah, we've got a new house. We're moving, and tomorrow I've got a storage unit. So I'm starting to put things in the storage unit. I've got a workshop in the house and a garage, and now I've got a storage unit. And in theory, there's a possibility I could even have like a workshop office space, because I've had this thought for a while. Maybe it's with the approach of mortality, but we all spend our days putting games together, and we create worlds, and we do research, and we know things about games that happened ages ago. We know things about Warhammer or 40,000 or miniature figurines or Tolkien, and make notes, and we write things down, and we draw maps, and then what happens when we go? Does it all end up in a skip? Do people just split it and sell it on eBay? And there's no acknowledgement of it at all. That's it, it's gone. I would like, and this is very embryonic, I would like to set up a repository of wargamers, gamers, role players, memories. And I mean, in an ideal world, it'd almost be like a library stroke museum. There'd be a curator who put the collections together. Everyone who donated or whose families donated, there'd be some plaque, maybe, and a picture of them on a wall so they weren't forgotten. Figures could go onto shelves in rooms where people could still wargame with them. And people would go, the curator would be able to go through all the notes and put them together, publish books. And people could go and start, I'm doing the English Civil War. Have I got any other English Civil War players? Oh, yeah, he did the English Civil War in the 1960s. And I can go back and have a look. And all the old books could all be pulled together. I think that'd be great. It's not going to happen. It's just me. I want to be bonkers ideas. And I don't know what I'd call it. I don't know. Could I get charity status? Could I get someone to endorse it? I don't know. But if you don't think big, you don't get no deal. So, as my granddad used to say. What have you got planned then, Neil? What's happening? What's occurring? I'm moving that out so I can see what Neil's saying. It's always good to have new ideas, isn't it? Big plans. So we're just now waiting for legal stuff. There's one person holding up the chain after, not the person we're buying the house off. It must be beyond them because we know she's already wanting to go. So we don't think it's her. Certainly not below us because we're not in the chain. We first time we've done this. We're just renting. So we're just off. But I do like the idea of finding some way of us not losing what is important. It might just be at the start, I begin to get word out through magazines and war games fairs that this service potentially exists. If I knew of somebody who would take my war games notes, which go back to the 60s, and my figures, which go back to the mid 70s, and do something productive with them, I would be happier than them just going on sale or in a bin, which would make me a bit sad. Oh, right. Is the first Afghan war the one where only one man, he's a doctor, I think, isn't he? And they stay in Kabul too long and the winter comes in. Is that the one? And he ends up in front of Queen Victoria when she's just become queen. Or was the one before that? I've got it. Am I on the wrong page here? You might be going back to Alexander the Great for all I know. Yeah, I think that's a good plan, Neil. See, I started the other way around. I started narrative. I'm not a fan. I don't do well in competitive games because I don't like people being competitive during the game. I like everyone to be all chilled, and I like people to not necessarily do things that are to make them win, but do things because it's within their character. I'm just doing a video at the moment about the difference between Japanese Eastern philosophy view of the mythology of goblins and the Western view of goblins. Because in the West, we think of goblins, don't we, as a species. Goblins have baby goblins and they are a thing, like rabbits, moles. I'll think of one for you, Eric. Groundhogs. But in Japan, they aren't. Goblin is a state of being. and they are human. It's so a tricky nuisance of a person might be called. I can't remember what it is now. I know the second stage is Tanga, and then it's Oni, and then within Oni there are a couple of different ones, and the one is a bit like a bugbear, but it's not a race. It's basically what I'm saying. It's more a set of characteristics. So if you're playing a game as a narrator, you've got to be able to tell the story, because you couldn't say, there are some goblins coming. You might say the locals, NPCs might call them ditch dwellers, and you might recognize them because they smell of stagnant water. It's a more complicated way of doing things. I've started to apply it to. I've got some of the goblin racers, because I have old-fashioned Western racers in my world, who have the characteristics of these Japanese goblin beings. It's quite hard. I've got to get myself tied up in knots here. Two Ronnies. Yeah, I watched on YouTube, these reaction videos. There's a couple in America who reacted to a phantom raspberry blower. And what they've done, because do you remember it used to be on like every week, didn't it? They had a little segment in the show, in the Two Ronnies. I'd be like, if I'm right, and they're like 10 minutes, it'd be the phantom raspberry blower. And a bit like Jack the Ripper, Eric, except he went and killed people. But they shook them all together into one cohesive big story. Phantom raspberry blower. Yeah. Was it something? What was it? How was it? Was it Tiswas of the Phantom Flan Flinger? Or have I dreamt that? It's some wild hallucinatory moment when I was but a lad. I like that. Sherlock Bones. Doctor, what's his name? I went to, I can't remember where it was now, one of the big shows. It wasn't Triples. I don't know where it was. Don't put me pretending, because I don't know. And this guy, he'd come over from Germany, and he'd made an entire table. It's probably about 4 foot square, 4 foot square. But it was all painted in black, white, and grey, like film noir. And all of the creatures on it were like vampires, like Nosferatu and Frankenstein's monster and the Wolfman, the Mummy. But they were all painted as, and they had like Dashiell Hammett, like what's he called? Humphrey Bogart, Sam Spade. But everything was painted monochrome, so it looked like a black and white film. That was incredible. Not I wouldn't do it, but it looked incredible. Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't just randomly dreaming of mythical creatures that fling flans. He flung his flan, then he fled. Oh, dear. Yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen it, Eric, and it just blew me away. Never seen it since. I was well impressed. Like I say, not so impressed that I'd do it, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I suppose you could. I mean, if you could do it with anything, couldn't you? If you did it with like First World War, Second World War, it'd almost be like a sort of documentary film. Get you out of research the uniforms as well. Oh, I go on then. Are you going to tell us? I'm waiting to see if Neil coughs up Eric about what he's up to now. Whether we're going to get credit when he makes £1 million, whether he's going to give us a percentage. What's he done? What's he done? He's definitely up to no good. Yeah, this guy, this German fella, he based it on all of the all right. Yeah, and you could every player could have a paper plate full of shaving foam. And if it threw a one, some of that. Maybe a one's a bit extreme. Maybe a double one. Throw a double one, face full of phlegm. I'm trying to think of the director. There was a German famous director, wasn't it? Was it the guy who did Nosferatu? Or was it the guy who did... Do you remember The Seventh Seal? That night playing chess for his life with that fella. That fella that was still alive until not so long ago. Oh, man, my brain is... I'm like a sieve. No, I can't remember what that guy's called. And I don't look on my phone because I'm in the middle of making a video. And I don't touch it. It's over there. It's not getting touched because I'm near the end now. And if I touch it, it'll all go wrong. My son... yeah, I've always loved them. I tend to prefer older general movies to modern ones. I'm not saying I don't like them. I've just watched... Have you watched the new version of Red Sonja on Netflix? You know, the Conan lady. They did one in the 80s, didn't they? Schwarzenegger was in it. It was okay. It wasn't brilliant. It's very funny. It's very funny and clever. It's not silly. Well, it is a bit because it's Robert E. Howard, but it's got a feeling of Conan. There's a bit of environmental disaster. The baddie turns out to be very, very cleverly explained. He's not an archetypal baddie, and it ends cleverly, leaving a way into a second film and even a possible link to a new Conan film if they wanted to. I liked it. So, yeah, if you're ever at a loose end, you don't know what to watch, might be worth watching Red Sonja. I don't know. There are people, famous people in it. I sort of went, oh, I know him. I couldn't think of any names. at the cinema. I don't. It might be on now. Obviously, they've done a new version of the Odyssey. I don't really do ancients much. My son studied classical civilizations at university, but I've never really been into Rome, Greece, Mediterranean things. I'm a northerner. my feelings about the Greeks is they didn't come here till they opened a kebab shop down our road. And as regards the Romans, I haven't forgiven them yet for invading, and that were in 50 AD. So I'm still fighting that battle because I haven't forgot. Like Robin of Hood says in Robin of Sherwood, Michael Preed, nothing is ever forgotten. It's very true in Donny. I like films with a good plot. I watched the other day. It's not it's set in the war, but it's not a war film. African Queen, Humphrey Bogart. Is it Lauren Bacall? And largely, there's only the two of them on a little boat on a river. It's brilliant. They haven't got gazillions of extras and bobbins and people showing their bare bits. I'm not a big fan of. But I watched a Viking film, and they went to Iceland as slaves, and the first thing they did was take all the clothes off, lie on the floor. Now I tell you what, it's cold. It's cold here at the moment. I'm putting more clothes on, not taking them off. Dirty dogs. Yeah, the 45. That's Bonnie Prince Charlie, isn't it? My family, or my grandma on my mother's side was a Macintosh, and she was directly related to the Macintosh clan. In fact, they had a house on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, and she didn't because she got pregnant and they paid her off, and she scuttled away, and her dirty dog husband spent all the money, so that didn't come to anything. But I was when I was doing the family tree, and you go down the Macintosh line, and you get to 1746, and it goes dead, 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 and I went, oh, Culloden. Did you watch last night on BBC Four? They had that old, but it was like they did it as a documentary, black and white, and it was as if it was a film crew interviewing all the troops. So they were telling you what the soldiers were wearing and talking to the artilleryman on the Scottish side about why he wasn't firing his gun because he'd not eaten for 3 days and he only had £4 ball for a £3 cannon. And it's set actually up at Culloden, and they go down by the wall and they talk to all the people, and they compare. They look at an English soldier and go through all his kit, and then they go to the Scottish Highlander who's got an old obsolete dragoon pistol and no ammunition. Yeah, that was good. I tell you what else has looked good. Now it's not my period, this, Neil, so I might be way offline. But have you seen on YouTube? Started with I watched. You remember John Tams from Sharp, who does all the singing? They've re-released him doing a version of Over the Hills and Far Away, and the backing of it is all the films of British troops, from everything from Patriot through to Sharp, Zulu, and then there's one Grenadier Guards, British Grenadiers. And I also looked on YouTube, but it was for the top 10 historically accurate films set in the War of Independence. I know that's 30 years after the Jacobites, but the uniforms didn't change a huge amount, did they? And there was one, and I'd not seen it before, Tommy Lee Jones. Is it called One April Morning? And it's the day of Concord. So, even little touches like when Paul Revere rides through, he doesn't shout, "The British are coming," or "The Redcoats are coming," because they wouldn't have said that. Why would they say Redcoats? You don't do that, do you? If you did it now, you wouldn't shout, "The men in khaki are coming." And they didn't see us as British in themselves as American. We were all British. He shouts, "The regulars are coming," which historically is what happened. But that was good. And the uniforms in that were awesome. And they come across in landing craft. And they come across in divisions. So the light infantry come, the line infantry, the grenadiers, the Coldstream Guards. And each one, as they get out of the boat, they all line up and go across the field. That's worth watching. I found it by putting Tommy Lee Jones's filmography into a search at Wikipedia, and it was there. It's called something like One Autumn Morning. It's got a lot of famous people in it, but Tommy Lee Jones is the one I remember. Because it's hard to find. War of Independence films are quite difficult to find. There's one with Washington crossing the Delaware, Battle of Trenton. That's very good historically, when he fights the Hessians. And I've had people tell me off for this, but I like the Al Pacino one with that lad where his son was the lad who was in EastEnders. Can't remember what it's called. Patriots, that stupid Mel Gibson thing, isn't it? I went off him when he did Braveheart. And that was absolute eyewash. But there you go. What annoys me is people watch these things, don't they? And they think they know the history. It's like people watch the film of Lord of the Rings and think elves fall in love with dwarfs and people slide down Helm's Deep on a shield, when in actual fact, they weren't even there. That bugs me. I can't remember what the Mel Gibson, the Al Pacino American Independence film is. He comes into Boston to pinch his boat, and they give him a little chit. And his son signs up by mistake, and he gets grumpy, and they won't let him come back. So he ends up tootling off to follow him. Oh, flip. What's it called? I don't know what it's called. There you go. I don't know what it's called. But it looks good, but like the fort battles. And in actual fact, Last of the Mohicans is not a bad film, is it? That's a similar period. See, that's before, isn't it? French Indian Wars, War of Independence, 1770s. Washington fought. They've done a good thing about Washington, aren't they? I don't think it's on yet, but that's getting some rave reviews. Washington when he's with the British fighting the French, and I've no idea what that's called either. But I think that's on Netflix, if I remember rightly. Bloodbath at Oaks Drift. No, I haven't seen that, but I'm going to have a look. I'm definitely going to have a look. I keep finding new figures. Me and my daughter Mary started our podcast on Sunday, and she was bemoaning the fact that you can't find good figures for female warriors. They all tend to be a bit male generated fantasy type. This is what I'd like my ladies to wear, as opposed to Mary saying, well, that's not what I'd wear if I were in a dungeon. And somebody directed me towards, and if it was you, Neil, I apologize, but somebody directed me towards a company that made at least half a dozen good fantasy figures of female characters. Some of them like witchfinders, some of them have got pistols. They're not all relevant. But although having said that, they're good for my pirate game, so that's okay. Ah, yeah. Revolution. So what's the Mel Gibson one called then? I'm getting them all muxed up in my head, aren't I? All I can see is us getting our heads kicked in. It might. I don't know if it's Reaper. I've tried. So because I've got my flipping phone on doing this video. I can't check anything. I can't check anything in here. It's all rotted. It's all goo. It's all. It's like an old pudding, the old Christmas pudding. Patriot, patriot, and revolution. Oh man, thank you, gentlemen. They do both begin with a P. No, oh God, they don't. One begins with a P and one begins with an R. Right, that didn't happen. Okay. You'd think I'd remember them because they start with different letters. I think that was quite a good catch. Good save, that one. Oh dear. Yeah, we've got a few. They haven't come yet. When they come, I'll show them you. I'll probably get Mary to do a podcast thing about them because she's still banging on about it now. But certainly when she started role playing in the early 80s, I remember, I think she was about 8, and the first female character she had like a little furry miniskirt on and a provocative dragon wrapped around her thigh. wasn't ideal. Do you know that Squidoo? When was, gosh, it's years since I've heard that. I used to get. I had a mate who was really into using their stuff. This channel's brilliant because I'm sorry, I should be writing all this down. When I'm in my new place and I'm more organised, there's going to be folders and stickers and things. I'm gonna have a plan because it goes in there and it goes straight out there. I need like a big mitt, catcher's mitt. And at the end of any conversation I've had with you, I could empty it, see what's inside. That Squidoo game. I've really got to stop trying to get things finished before I do these live streams. Yeah, The Patriot is the good one, isn't it? That's the one with Al Pacino and that lad who was in EastEnders. Ricky from EastEnders. Ricky! That don't mean anything to Eric. It's completely way over his head. Yeah. I remember we go back right to the early 80s. The first fantasy films I saw, was it Krull the Barbarian? Does anybody remember that? And then it was weird. And I know the first Dungeons and Dragons film was a long time ago now. Then there was one called Dragon Slayer with a dead good dragon and a monk who got set on fire. But I think of all those early fantasy films, probably Conan, I would imagine, was the best. And they did, I was at school, they did that cartoon of Lord of the Rings, but they only did 2 books and they didn't bother with it, didn't do the 3rd one. I've got so many things to keep looking at. Yeah, was that the sort of silhouette-y cartoon with the red skyy backgrounds and things? Everyone was blown away by that. That was incredibly good. Well, they didn't finish it, did they? They only did up to the end of the 2 Towers. They didn't do Return of the King, if I remember rightly. Well, like I say, I'm never convinced I remember anything rightly. So maybe that's one of the joys of getting old, because you forget everything. You get to learn it again for free, like bad Squidoo games. I've forgotten all about that. So it's like finding something out of a fresh. Oh, look at that flintlock. Oh, ooh, they do frogs in Napoleonic uniforms. I'll fancy them. Yeah, you got rid of yours in 1988. Yeah, maybe it was just us sort of, I don't know, sixth formy snooty types. My mate had I want to call it a record, an LP, and about Lord of the Rings, and it had a track on called "The Horns of Rohan," which we used to play during war games. But that was the only bit we played. It was to get the needle and try and put it on the right bit, and not hit the Horns of Rohan. Play the Horns of Rohan, the cavalry are charging. Oh, hang on a minute, I plugged it in. Nowadays, you'd just tell Alexa, wouldn't you? I daren't say it because she'll come on. And I know there was a radio show, not film. There was a radio play of The Hobbit, because when I was a teacher, I recorded it and I was telling the children the book of the weekish was The Hobbit, and I sometimes used the tape to give them a different way of hearing it. So it wasn't just me rambling on. Yeah, interesting. I mean, now I've seen all the Flex Gordon, Flexi Jerkoff, Dale Hardon. Yes, I saw that. Oh, very clever. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Flesh Gordon. That's blown my mind. Did you ever go to the cinema and watch? Was it Hot Gossip? Arlene Phillips. Was it Starship Troopers? This is going way off sci-fi. We're off on one. Flesh Gordon. Oh my word. And his spaceship. I'm not even miming what his spaceship looked like. Oh god. I went to see that with my wife before we got married. Oh wow. Flip me. It was awful. It was so bad. I mean, it was worse. I'm going to say something. It was worse than Carry On films. It was so bad. What were we doing to ourselves? Wow. What a wasted life watching that tripe. Oh man. I'm watching quite a few old war films recently. I watched Ice Cold in Alex. I've forgotten what a good film that is. And the naval. I love The Cruel Sea. I did the book at school. It was one of our books we did for A level. And Cruel Sea, and In Which We Serve. They're great. Mrs. Miniver. All those very British propaganda made in the war films. Yeah, fantastic. I really enjoy those sorts of. Films. I watched. Somebody was banging on the telly about Dunkirk being a top 10 war film, the new one. I don't know about you fellas. I thought it was rubbish. I nearly fell asleep. But I watched the 1951, 54 with John Mills. That was awesomely good. It was a proper story. You know, it follows the unit from when they're destroying bridges and they go back to the headquarters and everybody's beetled off and not told them and having to get their way across France and back to Dunkirk. And I thought that was excellent. Richard Attenborough's in it, isn't he? Time for tiffin. Time for tiffin. Yeah, that is very funny. I do like Carry On Up the Khyber. I like Carry On Sergeant actually, because it wasn't stupid, was it? I don't think it was stupid. I think it was a proper sensible comic look at Britain in the 50s during national service. It made sense. It wasn't what it became, shall we say. I won't go any further than that. Well, gentlemen, it's sort of 5-2. Oh, right. I don't know. I haven't seen that. I'll have a look at that. Right. And on that note, I'm going to say I should start winding up now because it's 5-9. And my intention is 8 till 9, although I didn't turn the camera on when I started. So it wasn't 8 till 9. But I did promise my wife I would go and attempt to do things. I only hope they're not too onerous. So, God willing, if the levy don't break, I shall hopefully see you all next Friday. Thanks for tuning in and keep in touch during the week. You know where I am, and you know what I'm going to say now, don't you? Ta-da, Chuck! Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.